So here's the problem with this one. Should gear crafted while you're leveling be more relevant and accessible? This is a prime example of whenever I'm talking about issues that Blizzard has, mistakes that Blizzard makes, and talking about band-aid fixes. Should gear crafted while you're leveling be more relevant and accessible? I think the overwhelming majority of people would say yes to this, because you're leveling your professions while you are leveling is not super rewarding. A lot of the gear that you get is kind of like, I have a question for you guys. How would you guys fix this issue? Think about why it's not relevant or why it's not accessible. Expensive enchant that increases XP gained. To me, that's like a band-aid fix. You're throwing systems on top of systems, right? You're adding something that is like, okay, well now everybody is gonna want that enchant for leveling. Make crafted gear that is crafted by you ever so slightly better than quest rewards. See, I don't think that's good either, because then it's like, well, everybody should craft everything. I would lower the requirement cost for many of the items. I would add more options to craft and add more recipes patterned to drop in dungeon worlds and from rep vendors. I think that makes more sense. That is kind of the angle that I would take with this. It's not that the gear that you need is bad. It's that randomly certain items, and it's not a leveling piece, but I want to take something that there is a legendary weapon. There's a legendary axe. It is told the myths and the stories of this axe echo across the lands at level 60. And you never see this weapon in classic WoW, but for years and years and years, everybody would talk about this axe and how good it was in original vanilla. What is that two-handed axe? Bingo. Arcanite Reaper. Arcanite Reaper was an insane weapon, insane crafted weapon. 3.8 speed, I believe it was 256 top end damage, 53.8 DPS weapon, 13 stamina. Now, this weapon was insane in original vanilla. There's a few reasons for that. There's weapon normalization and some things that changed. You know, having a slower weapon, like you had what became the Blackrock Slicer. It was a big razor blade before. It was a 4.0 speed weapon with similar damage and all that stuff. Nobody uses Arcanite Reaper anymore because it's so easily replaced in classic vanilla era, right? Like you can easily get something else. But back in the day, this item was insane. The reason why nobody uses this, and again, this isn't a leveling weapon. I know it requires level 58, but it's not really considered a leveling weapon. 20 Arcanite bars, 6 enchanted leather, and then a couple dense grinding stone. These are very expensive and rare mats. Enchanted leather is like whatever, but Arcanite bars is insanely expensive. It's rare. It comes from thorium veins, rich thorium veins. Then you have to get the transmute, and you know what I mean? Like that is an insane amount of mats for a weapon like this. The amount of time it would take you to farm the gold that you would need to craft an Arcanite Reaper versus the amount of time it would take for farm another item that is equal or even better than an Arcanite Reaper is so little. That's why in current classic WoW and era and stuff like that, you never see anybody using the Arcanite Reaper. That's like 2,000 golden bars. Yeah, it's an insane amount of gold. So I think the issue with gear not being relevant and accessible, I think it has less to do with the relevancy of the gear while you're leveling. You know, I think the gear that you can craft while you're leveling is okay. It's just that some of the mats are so expensive and they're so rare that I think there needs to be adjustment of the requirements to craft that gear, maybe even an adjustment of the drop rates of the materials needed for that gear out in the world and like how it affects the entire economy of things. This is a very, very delicate process. Like somebody has to treat this thing with so much care. In any living, breathing MMO, it's like a 2-year-old baby. All MMOs are like a 2-year-old child and they're just trying to find a way to get themselves killed. Okay, they're trying to run around, do everything, and they're putting forks in outlets, and this thing is trying to kill itself. And whoever is in charge of the MMO needs to take care of this thing, right? And make sure it doesn't kill itself. And don't shake the baby. Let's plug in the outlets. Yeah, you know, get some of those freaking safety things for the outlets. Just like a baby, Microsoft might abort it. I don't know what you're talking about. Okay.
If you're really on top of your trade skills and you go super out of your way to level them, you can make some useful gear. However, usually for the average player, by the time you get to the trade skill level to make something, you've already gotten something better from a quest or a dungeon or whatever. So assuming that this feedback matches what Blizzard has and Blizzard listens to the feedback, there's a very high chance that this would see a change. New class abilities and spells, brand new class abilities or spells unique to this version of Classic This was something that was in the Season of Discovery. Many of the runes, in fact, I would say the majority of them were abilities from other expansions like Burning Crusade and Wrath and whatnot, but they did have some new ones here and there from what I recall. It's also a very common request, and as you can see, it holds a resounding yes from the independent survey at almost 21,000 responses. Next, we do have a question relating to the honor system. Move honors, 21,000 responses.
Should classes receive new or adjusted abilities to make the rotation more interesting as they did or tried to Season 0 future expansions? This is such a loaded question. This whole thing is filled with leading questions and loaded questions. Because it's like, should classes receive new or adjusted abilities? Okay, is that 1? Is that 2? Is that 3? Is that 10? How many abilities is that? Make more leveling sets, make it as a part of the set as a quest or loot done to, and the other part of the set is from progression. Like imagine finding a state helmet, you can blacksmith a shield to match it for a bonus combined with. Like stuff like this is cool in theory, I think, but you don't want to do something that is like, oh, you have to do this. This is the only way to play. If you like that's the Legion Legendary effect. I don't think this is like a fix. I think this is something cool that would be cool to add. A good example is the Scarlet gear. Like let's say there's something else that you can add to the Scarlet gear set, because I think it's 5 pieces, right? It's 6 pieces, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It might be cool to have something like this, and then you can turn it into an 8-piece by adding some shoulders. Right? Now, a lot of people get Herod's shoulder, right? And it's not really a part of the set, but it's visually a part of the set. And then the helmet. So let's say you craft a helmet and a shoulders, and if you're a blacksmith, you can have Chain of the Scarlet Crusade that, improves your chance to hit, attack power when fighting undead, shadow resist, defense, this boom, boom, boom. And then maybe the 8-piece set bonus is something else that's pretty cool. Maybe like an additional crit. Like hell, maybe part of the shoulders that you make, one of the materials for the shoulders is Herod's shoulder. So you get like the materials of like, you need some like mithril and this, that, whatever. And then you need Herod's shoulder, and then you get a 2 set, like you get 2 shoulders now. And then that's part of the Scarlet set. That could be cool. I think it's like just a cool thing to add, sure.
Next, we do have a question relating to the honor system. Move honor rewards away from the original model and towards a more seasonal mode where new honor rewards are added to coincide with the new PvE raid tier updates. So it's essentially the system that they've used from the Burning Crusade and onwards with the seasonal PvP gear. Whenever new raid tier comes out, a new PvP tier comes out, and they kind of shuffle where you can obtain those items. There is a public question relating to the old rank 14 system.
You want to know what's funny? This was my suggestion to Blizzard. So like I was talking to Omar and Brian and these guys. So those of you guys who don't know, I was like very like in the cut behind the scenes before Classic launched in 2019, right? And there was a lot of chances that I had to talk with Blizzard and to give them suggestions on things. I mean, I don't think I'm like right about everything in hindsight, but there was ideas that I had, and things that they took some of those ideas, they didn't take some of those ideas, and I really got a chance to like work pretty close with them. Like I'd be having like freaking meetings at midnight with Omar, right? Yeah, I was in the trenches. So one of my things that I suggested was to take the honor system, and I said, I don't know if you guys actually do this. I don't think you guys should change it necessarily, but I think if you change it, what you should do is essentially remove the decay. You keep the rank point threshold that is needed in order to advance, because the original honor system is pretty confusing, and it's like a whole separate video. It's a whole separate thing. But you keep the ranking point threshold that is needed, but you remove the decay so you don't go down. So like if you have to miss a week for ranking, if something happens, whatever, let's say your freaking internet goes out and you miss like 2 days, whatever it is, it doesn't completely kill your rank and you're now 2 weeks behind because of 1 day of missing. That was what my suggestion was. They decided not to do that, and I think, whatever, that's fine. That was the decision. But then in Classic Era, they decided to change it, but they didn't change it to what I said. They didn't change it to removing the decay, because that's what this says. Same system, just remove the decay. That is not how it works. They did remove the decay. The brackets are different. They're not dynamic brackets. They don't have the thresholds to go up, are like very different. So what this eventually led to, the anniversary rank 14, the anniversary Grand Marshal, the anniversary High Warlord, everybody is rank 14. I think the current honor system is actually worse than the original honor system for the game. Like everybody is rank 14, and I don't think that's good for the game. Ranked BGs, that's it. Yeah, but then with ranked BGs, what? Without seasons, then you immediately get rank 14 gear. So ranked battlegrounds will work. Actually, you want to know, this is kind of a hot take as somebody who's like a Burning Crusade Arena player. I think that the thing that hurts the community and like the population of players that PvP the most is by having a rating attached to PvP. Funny coming from me as somebody who plays Burning Crusade Arenas so much, But the reason why, I think as soon as a rating is attached that says like how good or bad you are at something, it impacts people's ego so heavily that it makes them not want to play the game anymore. It makes them not want to do that thing anymore because there's a rating, and they're so afraid of looking bad at the game that they don't want to do it. Because for a lot of people, so much of their personal identity and self-worth is in this game.
For me.
Is into like how good they are at this game. And when you have like a score or a number that can show that you are not as good as you think you are, then it affects people's mental and their feeling of self-worth so heavily that it ends up making people not want to PvP at all because they're just afraid of looking bad.